Hey, my beautiful witchy people. You're listening to Tía Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos, your host. So, for today's episode, I'm taking it back a little bit. So, some of you might have listened to my prior podcast, Explain to Me, and I did some mini-sodes when we couldn't get everyone together. So, one of the ones that I got to do that I really, really enjoyed was I got to talk to my cousin Jesus Castellanos, and he came on, one, because he was one of the contributors to the Simpsons World project, and I'll have that episode linked in the show notes. Because I think that we don't always see a lot of Mexican or Latinx coders and people who are working like behind the scenes and, tech stuff. So it was really important for me to have him on to talk about his experience. But it's interesting because we recently had like a talk that really had me thinking about just a lot of stuff. So you're going to hear more about that. But yeah, it was a really fun conversation with my cousin. And I feel like I gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. You'll find out more. Let's tune into the episode. So it's interesting to me how people see success and accomplishments very differently. So when I did my other podcast, Explain to Me, I had my cousin on, Jesus, and I love that he was someone who got to do a really cool project. And if you want to learn about that project, you can check out that episode. I'll link it in the show notes. But I always thought that that accomplishment was so cool. And we were having a conversation about this podcast and how it's been so amazing and fortunate to have it do well in all these different places, and my name is tied to it. It's like, yeah, like people know that I did this. And, that was a feeling that he kind of didn't really experience for himself. But I want to have him on to kind of talk about that. So thank you for being on the show again.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You're older than I am. So I feel like I was always just like, look at my cool cousin doing stuff. I don't know. It's interesting, I guess, how we kind of acknowledge success and like what are different accomplishments in life. Like, do you enjoy it?
I was happy with the work I was doing because I loved that type of work. It was specifically in that point in my career. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last time we spoke about it, but that point in my career, I was like kind of given more opportunities because some people had left like at a pivotal point in the project. And so they were kind of like, step up. And I did, or was able to prove myself. So there's a lot of like really cool elements about, especially on the Simpsons World project there, that were like, oh, wow, yeah, that's great. I'm doing really great or well for myself. But it's never really tied to me. I think this is the part where you're talking about like success and how we like measure that for ourselves. And it never really is tied to my name specifically. I remember looking at like somewhere as the announcement of one of our projects is coming out, people like on the internet will chatter or speculate about what it might be or what it might look like or how it might work. And I want to like go in there and talk to them, but I'm not allowed to, right? I'm just one of the many people working on it. I don't have permission to speak about it or to say anything about it. So it's not really my project. It's nice to have a hand in, but it never really felt like mine.
I get that. And I mean, you're a creative type too. The cool thing is that you've found different outlets to do what you like to do. You're a big music person. Kind of how did the Recordium come to be?
This is one of my favorite stories of how it came to be because it never works out the way you want it to or the way you think it would work out. But I wasn't going to fight what was happening. I was coming out of high school. I was playing saxophone and a little bit of guitar. Going into college, I started playing more guitar. I was playing with bands. It's really weird because in high school, I was playing with a band that would like be openers for sold out shows at the Roxy, for example, in Hollywood, which is a really big deal for someone who's like under 21 and wouldn't otherwise be allowed to be in there. And as I kept growing there, it was very much the kind of a hobby and still performing and doing my own thing, being less of a horn player and then starting to be more of a songwriter. As I'm getting older, I'm getting more like financially stable. I thought I'm tired of performing at bars for people that don't necessarily want to see me. My second band wasn't nearly as like, I guess, prolific or as popular, which happens. And I was tired of lugging all my gear over there. I was getting to the point where I was drumming for some people and playing guitar for myself. And I'd have to like carry all these things. Like it's just a bunch of crap to move around and no one's really watching it. Sometimes I would look and I'm like, oh, they're engaged. Oh, no, there's a home run behind my head that's happening because there's a TV above me. That stuff kind of like, I don't know, dug into me a little bit. And I thought, I'm not even giving my best performance here because the acoustics are wrong or different, or, there's like people are talking over me, or I can't hear my voice when I'm singing a backup harmony because it's just all weird in here. This is kind of around the time as well, like people are putting stuff on YouTube and streaming things live. And I thought, I'm just going to do this on the internet. and record it. There's a little bit of nerdiness to me, and that I love computers and I love hardware and I geek out on that stuff. So I started investing in microphones, like really microphone at the beginning. And around that time, my band broke up. Someone went to school, someone went to college, like somewhere else, and we kind of just like called it quits. So now I have this recording space that I treated and kind of built in a kind of a low budget, still homegrown kind of style. And I didn't have anybody to record. I didn't have a band anymore. And I wasn't a big composer myself. So that's kind of where it started. And it turned into, well, I'm just going to invite this other band. I hear they're pretty good. I can record them. And it kept going. Suddenly I have another microphone I wanted to buy and another camera that I needed to try and a few more lenses. And I just kind of kept evolving it. I'm like maybe 6.5 years in now, and it's slowly grown in kind of an audience from an audience perspective. And it's still kind of something I'm looking to keep growing.
What's been your favorite recordings that you've done with artists?
This is another really funny one because my favorite is not always the same. In fact, it usually isn't the most popular. My favorite tend to be people that I find on my own randomly. Sometimes if I pass by a bar or something and I hear somebody I really like, I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing if I can get them to come because I think they sound great. I'll have them come in, we'll record them, and they get very little traction. They don't have an audience, and my audience doesn't like them. Versus the stuff that someone might just reach out and say, hey, I want to record, and I like them. And I'm like, yeah, come on over. And those videos will get like 3 million views or something. Not like in a day or anything, but way more than something that I really, really love. There are local, to answer your question a little more specifically, there is a local artist in Southern California here in Long Beach. His name is Rudy De Anda. He's a Mexican singer songwriter. He's got awesome sound. I didn't find him myself, but he just kind of has like this kind of local buzz, local name. And so you do kind of go around and hear his name often enough that I just kind of want to go like, I want that guy. Let me try to land that guy.
Do you know who Snow the Product is?
No, it sounds familiar, but no.
She's a Mexican rapper. You should check her out. That might be a cool person to make one happen with.
Yeah. I'm always kind of like eager to do that. There was a point where I was taking anyone. Really couldn't choose. I thought I need more acts. I need to prove to better acts that I can do this. So, and by the way, I don't charge anybody for this. So it's kind of like a promote your band, mutually beneficial kind of approach. They come in, I record audio and video for them. I get to host it on my channel only. So they send their audience to me. And, if my audience likes their stuff, they'll likely follow them on the internet or continue to buy their music or something like that. So there was a point where I would take anybody. And now I'm at a place where I want to be very picky. And part of what I'm trying to do is be a curator of the content. And rap and R&B are stuff that I've been lacking in, mainly because I'm not as big of a fan of those genres. And so it's hard for me to like just pick people out of like underground clubs or whatever.
I really enjoy her, so I would recommend that. I do like that because I was in LA last, what was it? That was May when we went to go see Bikini Kill.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool because I got to see like the space that you kind of record in and how much stuff you're accumulating. I'm just saying, cousin.
Yeah. What?
The ratings that I have and stuff, Finland seems to be the number one. So if I ever get an offer to go to Finland, you should come with me and do the audio stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Finland. Are you kidding me? I would go anywhere though, to be fair.
Hint, hint, Finland. Well, honestly, I feel like if I get something in Finland, like I would just go all over Europe. Why not? It's so easy to get from place to place at that point.
Right? I hear there's a train. You can take a train anywhere once you're
So I feel like that would be cool to do a tour and stop by a lot of places and just do some recordings and discuss magic stuff and whatever. That's the thing that I kind of like about this show is that it's all about like people finding their power and witchcraft and that, but it's also about just people's stories, and I feel like we are one day all going to be ancestors. So it's kind of important to hear just the different things that we're doing.
That's really nice. One day we're all going to be ancestors.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it'd be cool to go to to Europe and like do a recording. I'm just saying, I'm going to leave that in the episode and manifest the life you want. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. I 100% believe in that.
Here's to hoping. So, taking a pause from the episode, I love ritual baths. I love ritual baths. I do. I really do. There's nothing like cleansing. And I think that maybe because I have so much fire in my chart, something about the water really overpowers me, really helps shift my mood really quickly. And I love that Melissa at Temperance Home and Bar is really great about making mixes. Not even just that, she'll send smoke cleansing bundles. She just always makes sure that whatever I'm looking for, she can do it. She started doing candles. She is the place to check out. Check her out. Her information is in the show notes. Melissa at Temperance Home and Bar. Let's get back into the episode. When I was in LA, I kind of just got a vibe that it's very, I mean, it's one of those places that has a lot of stories, you know what I mean? So it gives off like a vibe. And I love ghost stuff. Do you have any experiences with ghost things?
I don't have direct experiences. I think one of the, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like a part of me is happy and a part of me is jealous. Um, I think when I was younger, I would visit Mexico, or I lived in Mexico for a little bit, but there was like a moment where, and I don't know if this is symbolic of something. It might have also been a dream, to be fair. I was going up some stairs and there was just a giant, I can't describe let me see if I can, the wingspan of a giant moth that I saw, I guess, perched against the wall was, I don't know, 20 feet or something. It was huge. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it was real. There's that element. And I, as a child, just, 180 booked it back downstairs. I don't remember anything much else about that. Don't know if that counts as paranormal.
I think anybody, if they saw that, would be pretty scared.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely weird.
I also, the other thing that's really funny about that is it stuck with me enough that every time I go there now to that home, I think about it and I picture it, and because it's like the only thing, the image is embedded in my mind. And I think about it and I like try to apply like practical reasoning to it. It's like, well, how big are moths? Or like, could it have been a shadow of a moth? Like I try to, but ultimately I'm like, no, I think it might have just been a giant moth.
Yeah, I don't like any of that. But I'm just saying, like, ghosts hit differently in Mexico. Something about here is like tenebroso, and I'm not sure why.
You feel like they're meaner?
No, like they're just more intense. Like, I feel like in my experience here, and I could be wrong, people might have other experiences, but spirits, even like ghosts, more play coy. They're like, oh, I don't really want you to know I'm here, but I'm here, until they want you to know that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in Mexico, sometimes it just comes hardcore from the start, and you just either you see something or you hear something. I don't know. And I also just think that with all the terrible things that have happened in Mexico, being indigenous land that was like colonized, and then just the atrocities that have happened from there and whatnot.
Yeah.
It has a very violent and sad history. So I just get energy there that's different. I mean, but it's also like full of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of life. And I think that that's another reason why it might be that you feel it, because it's Mexicans live a completely different lifestyle than Americans do.
Yeah, without a doubt. I like the way you described it as they hit differently. They're not a strain. I have two other recollections. They're not mine. They're like a but close family in that same home, which I guess is, you see often. My sister grew up in that home and lives there still. And very kind of candidly, or like doesn't really care too much. Like she's a matter of fact, rather, she says she used to often be downstairs and see a shadow of a man walking upstairs. No sound, just a shadow regularly. And it became like a thing where she was no longer like scared of it because that's all it ever was. And you've seen that home. And there's a thing about a lot of homes in Mexico is it's kind of hard to like just break in and walk across a room in some of those homes. They're like kind of all barred up and they're like pretty tough, fortified, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's a fun one. And the last one I have, which is I guess maybe the most recent one, which is which happened to my brother the night that my mother died. A few things happened. A candle that she gave him, like I don't know, something happened to it, like it burnt out, or like something happened to that candle, and our TV in our home broke that night. Don't know what that means again. Something about it is just like this energy, and it just like blew it out. I don't know, because we're like equating it or like tying it to my mom. I didn't see it as like a bad or scary thing. I thought of it as like, I don't know, just a thing that happened. So yeah, that's my paranormal.
Is there paranormal experience? Okay. Since it is like the Halloween season, what are your top horror movies?
Okay, which actually ties back into my mom. My mom was not a horror movie fan, and I think she and I started watching The Others, Nicole Kidman, and it was one of the only, I guess it was Tame, and maybe that's why she loved it, but that was like one of her only favorite horror films. I don't know if you would classify it as horror.
I think so.
I'd like to add that to my list, please. Another one I really like is Insidious. I think it was one of the first ones that really kind of, again, it's not like super in your face about it. I think Some of the older ones, like Poltergeist and stuff, it's like very gloomy, and I don't know, there's just like it's too in your face. I prefer a subtle scare and let it be all in my mind kind of thing. So I've got that Nicole Kidman one, and then Insidious, and I think I don't even want to count the sequels, right? I think maybe just as a group. Do we count Get Out?
Yes, because that's on my list too.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so Get Out. I mean, it's crazy. That stuff is good. I don't know. When I first thought about like what top horror movies, I don't really think about them like that, like Get Out, but it's so good, and it's definitely a horror movie. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the symbolism in it is really just amazing as well.
Yeah.
The mise en scène, if you will, is really superb.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm doing a countdown of my favorite horror movies. That's coming up sometime this season. Guys, it's 33 episodes. It's a lot. Well, thank you so much, Cuz, for being on the show. What are you working on? And, like, where can everybody go to support you?
You can jump over to YouTube, look for The Recordium, or you can go to therecordium.com and check all that stuff out. I've got, COVID's kind of slowed me down because the premise of my YouTube show is to invite people to my garage, my tiny garage, and for me to record them while they're singing. That's not too COVID friendly, but I'm getting ready to get back out there, and that's going to be, I'll be putting more consistent stuff out there. So YouTube, The Recordium.
So that was the episode. My cousin is so cool. Like, I think that I'm so fortunate to have so many family members who are also creative types, who are just very bright and are kind of just making their dreams come true. I really do love that about the group of people that I have surrounding me. So if you want to check out the previous episode I did with my cousin, the link to that is in the show notes. Also, check out The Recordium. There are so many amazing musical groups on there. You never know. You could find your new favorite. All right. Well, to keep up with the podcast, follow it on Instagram and Twitter at Tía Bruja. You can follow me. My website is bexbcastin.com. And you can also follow me at bexbcastin on Instagram and Twitter. We have a Patreon too, so if you like what I'm doing and want to support, I would totally appreciate it. Again, the link is in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see what we have in store tomorrow. Bye!
Yeah.